This is Believe in Buckeyes. I'm Bryant with All-American quarterback Chimdi Chekwa. This show is brought to you guys by FanDuel. And chill, we was hyped for it to start, but now we already at the final week of spring ball with the spring game coming up this weekend. I guess that means spring is here. But man, what's going on, Chim? How you living?
So good, man. Spring is here. Spring doesn't officially start until the spring game ends. That's how I feel, you know. So I know I'm looking forward to this game in terms of not so much. I mean, the spring game isn't that big of a deal, but in certain years, you know, like this one where you're gonna have a lot of new faces emerging, new opportunities, new players that's on the team in general. It's good to not only be able to go through a spring practice schedule and all that stuff, but to get in the shoe and compete. Because honestly, for a lot of these guys, this is going to be the first opportunity for them to actually compete in the shoe at this level in preparation for the real season. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, no, right. And obviously, it's like I always say, man, I wish we still did a real game. Hopefully, they kind of bring that back, you know, instead of just like that office defense and, you know, you kind of move
Yeah.
the ball in certain situations. We got enough people for it, right? They shut down the spring transfer portal, so you ain't got to worry about, you know, someone kind of outperforming and getting poached or anything of that nature. So I would love to see us kind of get back to the game. But obviously, we kind of get what we get. Chim, kind of leading into this, like you mentioned, like it's a lot of new faces, a lot of people we're gonna see our first taste of them in the scarlet and gray. Any names, anybody you looking for in particular to kind of go out there and stand out, or just a group maybe that you maybe, you know, want to see if someone could make a play and kind of feel like they looked the part and kind of make those next steps.
Yeah, I think the one thing you always have to answer for a season is who's getting pressure on the quarterback. There's no mystery in football, all right? A lot of the plays that are made in football at this level are made by the quarterback. So the best way to be a really good defense is to affect the quarterback. And the best way
Yeah.
to affect the quarterback is have somebody who can be very disruptive and get to that quarterback. And I feel like in recent years, we've done a decent job. We've had pretty good players on the edge uh, that in any given game could really just take over a game and be disruptive. But we haven't had the level of pass rush that we've grown accustomed to over the years at Ohio State. I thought Aubrey Reese was great last year, but he didn't rush a ton. Like they didn't actually send him a whole bunch. And in this year, you know, you have some new faces, some young guys who you hope to step up. But you also have some guys who have been there. So Kenyatta Jackson, I
Yeah.
mean, he's really gonna be the guy. Like he's really gonna be the guy who's relied upon to be the veteran and the guy who affects the quarterback the most. I mean, he's gonna be the guy who they lean on. So I want to see him take a step up, but I don't really expect much from him in the spring game. But some of the young guys like Epi, who have gotten a lot of talk about being one of the next guys up, Zion Grady. We saw a little bit of Bo Atkinson last year, and then Quay Russell coming from Alabama. You know, he's been talked about as a guy who's going to be a big help this year, and we need it. You know what I'm saying? Like we actually need him to be a guy. And in these spring games, defensively, you're not going to do a ton. Right? It's going to be a simple defense. At the end of the day, you want to see a guy one-on-ones, good versus good, twos versus twos, etc. You want to see a guy go out there who could just beat a guy one-on-one, because that translates. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing first and foremost. Who are the dogs on the defensive line that when it's third down, they're going to get to the quarterback and they're going to disrupt the play?
Yeah, no, and then you also got to bring up Kahari Wilder, right? I know, true freshman, right? But
Yeah.
we got to start we got to talk about these guys, because these guys, when they get to the season, they most likely are going to get some opportunity. And Kahari Wilder is one of the guys that kind of jumped off the page, right? Just kind of looking at his physique, right? But you know, this
Yeah.
is the time we actually going to see him in a live practice, some live situations, and we can see if he bring that speed, that spot, that pop, that power to his game. That maybe, you know, he become DN3, DN4. You know, you're going to play at least 4 or 5 defensive ends per game. Maybe he kind of find himself into that rotation. On my side of the thing, is like, you know, in counterpart, I want to see what these young offensive tackles look like. I think we know what we got in our starters, and Phillip Daniels and Sherfield. even more at this point. But when you start talking about Carter Lowe, Armstrong, and even another true freshman, that senior in high school, however you want to call him, and Sam Greer, and his stature coming in at 6'7", 330 pounds, guys just built like a brick wall. And seeing clips of him in high school and him at some of these camps and things of that nature, I know he has the physique, he has the start of the things to kind of fit the part, but to kind of actually see this guy in the shoe and kind of get out there and compete would mean a lot to me. We got to see Carter Lowe a little bit last year. Obviously, he performed pretty well in the spring game last year, but now we're in year 2. We want to see his body look a little bit different. We want to see his pass sets look a bit different. I remember last year he got out there, he played a ton, he looked exhausted. He would be in better condition, right? Just more in tune to the college football and playing at that level because, as you know, as the season goes on, you never know how things shake out. But I tell you one thing for sure: if you can't protect the edge, like you say, you need some guys to disrupt it. If you can't protect
Yeah.
it, your season's not going to be great. So it'd be nice to see some of the young guys go out there and just look like they kind of fit the par. They belong. They might not win them all. They might lose a couple. But I can still tell you're set if you had a chance at winning, or if it looked like you were kind of out there with your chicken, like a chicken with your head cut off, and you don't really know what's going on or what you're supposed to be doing. Those things kind of always stand out. So it'd be
Ye
interesting to see what those guys bring to the table.
Yeah, and it does change a little bit from practice to the kind of the even though they're not truly creating 2 teams and competing against one another, it does change when you go into the real stadium and you try to construct it kinda like a real game. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know that the it just feels different, right? The plays sometimes feel a little bit longer, right? Because it's not a quick whistle like at practice. At practice, at times, you get used to the tempo of practice. You get used to the quick whistle. You get used to the fact that the play is going to stop after a certain period of time. Um, but then when you get to the games, that's when the actual gamers come alive, and you get to see, who's that corner who's been great at practice. He's been good all these practices leading up. But when the ball really goes up in the air in live action, he's not playing the ball well, or he's holding, or he's getting a pass interference. He's not able to handle a little bit of that pressure that
that
comes with
pressure.
being able to have the poise to be able to get yourself in position, not get a penalty and go make a play on the ball. So I do want to see that. We got some new corners. We almost got a whole new cornerback room for real outside of the 2 guys that got some experience playing here last year. And I want to see what those guys look like. Dominic Kelly, Cam Calhoun. These are guys that came in the transfer portal. These are guys that are competing right now for starting for to be starters. And
Yeah,
the assumption is that we got 2 guys that are going to start. But those other guys are coming here to compete to be starters. And then there's some young guys as well that can put their names in the mix. So I kind of want to see that. Another guy I want to see, and there's been a lot of talk about Earl Little Jr. and how he's shown that he's just going to be an impactful player, and I believe it. I've seen him, and I've seen the film. Right,
yeah.
the guy gets around there, so I expect that from him. But there hasn't been a lot of talk about Terry Moore, the other guy who plays safety, came over in the
Yeah,
transfer portal from Duke.
from Duke. Yeah,
Um, I'm interested to see how he looks. He's coming off an injury, was hurt all last year. I don't know how much he plays in this spring game, but I just want to see it. I just
yeah,
want to see what he's capable of because I think we're going to rely on those guys at least early in the year, having to go play Texas, having some of these big games early in a tough schedule. Ryan Day realizes that we need some veterans. The game today in college football, it's kind of funny because you only got a few years to play college football unless, you get your sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth year like some of these guys get. But you need the veterans in today's game to really be stabilized and go on that long run. So they brought some veterans in, and I want to see some of those guys play because there's some young guys that were here
hmm
that are walking
that's
into a veteran role as well. So do those guys that they brought in actually outplay or outcompete some of the current guys? So that's something I'm looking for defensively for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we got to talk about quarterback, right? We got obviously Tavian St. Clair coming into year 2. He's now, essentially solidified that QB number 2 role here. He got a little publicity earlier in spring, right? Just throwing, at pro day,
Yeah,
right? Kind of get in front of scouts and say, obviously he's a I think it was 6'4", 6'5". He's a great looking kid. Um, but it's this season mattered a lot to him and his development. It's going to be our chance for us to kind of get out there and see what he could do and bring to the table.
Yeah,
Last year we got a little bit of him, right? We see he could. To me, he ran faster than I thought he could run. But now we got to see him play the quarterback position a little bit more soundly. And at any given moment, obviously, he could be in the game. He could be the guy that's leading our Buckeyes to, on their conquest for their goals for the year regarding national championship hopes and Big Ten title, things of that nature. So it's going to be a good opportunity to get an eye on him to see if he's stepping up, if he's going in the right direction. Can we see him just learning and just kind of growing to be that quarterback that we expect him to be here at Ohio State? Because, basically, because if not, we know it's going to be, next year, we're going to have some other guys coming in the class and we're going to start thinking like, hey, well, maybe they should be that guy. So, it'd be good to see him kind of step in, solidify that role because, it's needed. It's needed. We can't be shaking at QB2 and think we're going to be real contenders for the national
yeah,
championship.
yeah, for sure. It's much needed for Ohio State to have a clear number two guy who could step in and relieve Julian Saint if he was ever to get hurt or whatever. It's also very big for him to know that like I am that guy. Like
Yeah.
I am the number two guy just because of circumstances. But if the circumstances change and I need to be the number one guy, I can do it all. And as a player, you need moments that you can pull on so that the next time you get an opportunity, it doesn't feel new and super fresh, right? So being able to walk into the shoe, the last time he did it in the spring game, it was basically the number three guy. You had Lincoln Kingholz, who was
Mhm.
really competing to start at that point, and it
Right.
was clear that Tavian St. Clair was just going to be a guy who's learning and developing. Now he gets to walk in there in the shoe and be that guy.
Mhm.
I'm the second guy, but at the spring game for my squad, I'm leading this group, and that's important so that he can bank that when the season starts. I've
Yeah.
been in this situation before. Um, I've been in command, so it's going to be important for him. It's going to be important. I mean, I want to see how good is this kid in terms of after
Yeah.
1 year of development. He looks good. He's always looked like a great talent, but what you want to see from a guy who's coming into his own is the poise, the command, the decision making, and just feel like a starter. I want him to
Yeah.
feel like a starting quarterback. So I'm excited to see him, man. It's always
Yeah.
exciting to see the next guy that
Yeah.
is possibly going to lead this group.
Right, because in my opinion, obviously we don't never know, but hopefully he gets the majority of the plays as well. Right, we figure out a way that he's getting reps with the ones, he's getting reps with the twos. He gets the vast majority of the plays at quarterback because for one, we need to see it. But like you say, he has to feel comfortable and have something to pull on. If his number is called, he has to go out there and lead the troop from there. Let's get into the scheme of things because obviously, we got obviously a new offensive coordinator coming in, Arthur Smith, man. Looking at his history, he's basically an NFL guy. I think he did some. I think his first year coaching after playing college football, he did GA. And then he spent maybe a couple years as a defense assistant somewhere like an Ole Miss, and that was like back in 2010 or so. But other than that, he's essentially always been an NFL guy. Now he has the opportunity to install on the collegiate level, and I guess it's going to be interesting to see like what do we look like offensively because we have nothing to go on. We have no history of Arthur Smith being on the college level and what he might want to install because it can't be. I tell you one thing for sure, it can't be everything he did in the NFL. It can't be right. The guys
Yeah.
just not. They just wouldn't be able to get there. I just tell you that. But he obviously gonna have to take a piece of that and grab wrinkles what he made to kind of stack up his offense. But what are you expecting to see from an Arthur Smith offense going into the spring, where we're running basically mostly base situation, base
Yeah.
pass concepts, run game things. What are you looking forward to seeing from the Arthur Smith offense?
What I'm looking for is, I guess, what I would say Arthur Smith is known for. I'm expecting good structure to the run game, good build off that run game to be able to, get some simple, easy opportunities in the pass game, play action. Um, but the other thing that I feel like has been a part of the conversation from Ryan Coach Day and everything is yak. Catching receivers catching the ball and being able to catch and run, right? So
Mm.
I'm interested to see, how that's built in because if that's who you want to be, I don't care if it's spring game, I don't care if it's they want to practice for spring, they want to camp. If that's who you want to be, it'll be evident
Mm.
that, we're gonna get the ball into the playmakers' hands and they're gonna be able to run. And so whether it's a running back or a guy like Legend Bay or Devin McCoon, who's a speedy guy, or Jeremiah Smith, etc., I expect to see some simple, drag routes, shallow crossing routes where uh, you get these guys in space, you get them open, and they get able to catch and run, and not so much of and I mean, it's okay to do this, but not so much of that full route tree that you had Cardinal Tate, Jeremiah Smith running curls, comebacks, um, catch tackle down the field so much. I want to see, some of what they're saying that they want to do. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Like, is it just talk or is this, really how they're approaching the offense? And is it gonna be a little snapshot of what we're gonna see this
Yeah.
fall?
Yeah, because it's gonna be interesting. Like you say, you think of Arthur Smith, he's known for like running the ball. You think about the days that they was like good with the Titans, right? They ran the ball a lot and they took play action shots and they threw the ball deep down the field to AJ Brown. And that's what you kind of got used to, right? And that's what they was known for, that was good for. And then, when you talk about his time with the Steelers, Steelers, they was always kind of, let's say, limited at the quarterback position, but they still won games. So they, what they did, they ran the ball, right? They ran the ball. They had a
Yeah.
couple running backs. They got the ball to them in a bunch of different type of situations, uh, screens, things of that nature, and that's kind of how they kind of made their way up and down the field from there. So it'd be interesting to see what we bring. Obviously, when you're just looking at it from the offensive line standpoint and just running the ball, it's like, what's the approach? Are we going to be more of a gap scheme? Are we getting double teams and and moving people out the way in that form? Are we going to be more of a zone scheme where, we kind of get leverage, we kind of try to make folds in the defense from here, 5 lanes, and we kind of hit it going north and south in that direction. So it'll be interesting to see. You obviously expect to be a mixture, but I think one big question that Buckeye fans want to know, we want to know, and obviously we're going to find out maybe a snippet is how many tight ends are we going to play this year? How often and early are we playing these tight ends? And who are these tight ends? Obviously, we got some guys coming in the portal. We
Yeah.
got some guys on the roster that kind of been there for a while. But that's going to be the real question. Like, what are we doing with these tight ends? And that's going to kind of dictate how we planning on attacking guys when it comes to running.
Yeah.
And this is just something we just don't know. But they've been tight ends are getting some praises. But we just got to see, exactly how we line up and go about approaching it.
I expect to see some 2 tight end sets, and I don't know if we go much deeper than that from the tight end standpoint, but I think the 12 personnel actually, last season was super effective.
Mhm.
And, they got a couple tight ends in the transfer portal, I believe. They got some young guys that they like. So I expect to see some 2 tight end sets, and I want I encourage it. I encourage it. But when you talk about running the ball effectively, having some guys on the field who can block and also go out and catch passes, um, is beneficial. And then when you have some of those, if you want to do some catch and run things, tight ends are pretty good in blocking in the screen game. And also as a corner who always had to navigate my way across the middle of the field, getting picked by tight ends and my linebackers and stuff. It makes it a little bit harder when you got tight ends on the field when you run some of those shallow routes. They're almost like screens,
Mhm.
but natural, right? Like a natural pick play or a natural screen play where you get the a athlete the ball in space, but you got some big guys running some routes as well that pick you off. So I'm anticipating seeing more of that because I feel like that's what the talk has been,
Yeah.
and I think it's an effective way to get some simple pass plays. Doesn't require a ton of reading, doesn't require a ton of development, doesn't force your offensive line to have to block for a super long time, but get the ball to some playmakers who we know are guys who can make some plays in space. So, it's interesting. One thing that's always interesting about the spring game, like you want to see the offense be good, right? You want to see this stuff. You want to see them be able to run the ball well. But then you want to see the defense be good. You want to see them stop the run and cover guys. Somebody has to lose.
Somebody's got to lose.
Somebody got to lose, man. And that's always a challenge because if we big up the corners, that means that the receivers probably had a tough day, right? And vice versa. So that's always an interesting thing about the spring game. But hopefully, both sides have some wins and some losses and some things to build off of.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Because obviously, there's a lot of wide receivers, right? And we done had our discussions on who's going to be wide receiver number 2. We obviously know Jeremiah Smith's going to get his balls. He's going to get his catches.
Yeah.
Who's going to be that number 2 spot because it's just so many. It's just deep. Paul Parkle, Darren McKeown. You got Brandon Ennis returning captain. You have Chris Henry Jr., the 5-star true freshman coming in that everyone's going to be excited to see. So it'd be good to see somebody make a couple plays just to kind of validate, right? To validate that depth, that some of those guys make some plays, and do a little bit of something. Maybe Phillip Bell to stand up and do something.
I think Legend Bay and Brock Boyd are going to be the spring game stars. That's my prediction. That's my prediction.
That's your prediction. All right, man. We'll see. We gonna get into it, man.
Starting off.
Often. Okay. We'll see. But you gotta remember that those guys are seniors in high school. They probably got prime on their mind, man. Everybody probably after the spring game, they traveling home to prime and things of that nature. So, but we'll see. It'll be a glorified practice that we definitely are tuning into this coming weekend. But we got to get to the next topic, man. Our Coach Day, and we always kind of give Coach Day a lot of respect. That essentially he says how he feels like to the media all the time. It was what he feels, what he thinks. That's what he said. And he got on Cam Hayward came to practice a week or so ago. He jumped on their podcast and he's talking. He kind of dropped a line that was it could rub people the wrong way, especially us former guys or guys that's currently in the program at a certain stature. He kind of basically just make a line of, hey, if you come to Ohio State, how you basically say it? Basically, you're expected to be a first or second round
First
draft
or second round pick. Yeah.
And so you got guys like Draymond Jones who was doing it. He just signed up for a couple pretty penny contracts in the NFL at the next level. Like, hey, whoa, what about those other guys, man? We better too. We had successful careers too. We didn't go that high in the draft, but we did all right. I guess what's your thoughts on? Obviously, it's funny. We're not about to turn on David Cutler, but what's your thoughts on it? You being a 4th round guy, who All-American, who had a pretty successful career at Ohio State, leading to the NFL. I don't know. You feel like you let the unit down by not being a day one guy, or,
So I'll say this because I 100% thought I was going to be a first or second round pick. So I guess I would actually fit into the category of what Ryan Day described. I think his intention was, because the question was really about the receivers and how much success that they've had at that position. And I think what he was trying to communicate is that, when we go recruit guys, this is the expectation in terms of, where you want to get to, where you want to develop and get to. And if you don't believe that you can develop and get to this, then this probably is the place for you. I think that's what he was trying to communicate.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be his interpreter either, right? I think that the issue to me primarily is measuring first or second round as the success, right? Because we all know what real success is, the ability to just do the job, right? So you look at Scary Terry out in Washington, right? Was he a first or second round pick? No. Now, if we were to redraft now, would he be a first or second round pick? Yeah. Draymond Jones, who retweeted, he was a 3rd round guy, I believe. He had some super talented guys in front of him that he played behind. It was going to be hard for him to get to that first or second round. But from a talent standpoint, I mean, he's up there. I don't think first or second round determines your ability. I think your ability determines your ability. Now, there's tons of guys. Jeff Okudah, first round talent for sure. Injuries and other things have impacted his actual NFL career. So I don't like measuring based on your pick because that doesn't actually show, realistically what you are capable of. Jack Sawyer, and what he did at Ohio State is well beyond what we can just determine success by first or second rounder, right? So I think if they had more, if he had more thought into that response, he would clarify that it's about your expectation of where you can get to, and not so much, a hindsight view of what defines success. And I do think as a young guy going into Ohio State, your expectation is I could get to the next level. I don't know about first or second round, but I can get to the next level and play at the next level for a long time if I can stay healthy, which there's no guarantees that you're gonna play long because health is
Yeah.
actually impactful to your ability to get drafted high and to play long. So that's the big thing. I think maybe he should clarify, but but
Yeah,
overall,
no.
the
Yeah.
idea is to be the best, like to be
Right.
able to be at the top of college, and if you can do that, then you have the opportunity to be drafted high.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the gist of it. Like myself, like obviously I come in for a big program. Uh, I figure if I play left tackle, maybe I go first round. Never was at left tackle. I always play like right side of the ball and right guard. It was like, yeah, not going that high. But to your point, it's like you have to be able to do the job. So when it was my time to play, I was able to do the job, right? I was able to
Yeah,
play, and I was able to play guard. I was able to help the team win, and that was kind of his next point. We have to contend for championships, conference championships, in the playoffs, national championship. We have to stay at that level. There is no, oh, we took this year off. We got a guy coming in next year. We'll be right back. Oh, this guy was young, so he didn't play that well. Give him next season we'll be, back to being one of the, no, it's none of that, right? This is Ohio State. We expect to reload, not to rebuild. And that's kind of another gist I think he was trying to get in there. Like, if
yeah,
we have a mediocre year, I might get fired. I'm going to have to fire some of my staff, like, because changes are going to have to be made. It's just not acceptable here at Ohio State. So for you guys coming in, understand that. Once you get here, it's not about, you have to develop fast. You have to be ready to go because when your number is called, you're expected to win. No one is going to pat you on your back and say you're the young guy. He'll get it next time. Like, no, you have to get it now, and we have to train you for that, and you need to be ready and receptive for that before you decide to sign on down the line to become a Ohio State Buckeye.
yeah. And if you look at Ohio State's recent past, we're really talking mostly about receivers and quarterbacks when it comes to bona fide first or second round talents. I mean, there's obviously interior defensive linemen have been consistent for most part in that conversation. This year, we just have crazy amount of defensive players right at the top of the draft, but that's not the norm. So the expectation is one thing, but the results are another in terms of how many guys are ending up being, forget first or second round, top 4 rounds. All right, how many
Yeah,
guys are there? But at the end of the day, it's about performance, man. Are guys going out there and performing in a way that puts that defense and that offense at the top of college football? And that's what your expectation is. And then if you can do that, then you have the opportunity to go play at the next level. Regardless of what round you go in, you have the opportunity
yeah,
to go there, compete, and as long as you stay healthy, this football is a contact sport, and your career can go any type of way based on injury. But as long as you can stay healthy, you put yourself in a position to be able to have a decent career and do the things that you want to do. So
yeah, yeah. That's for sure. But back to the Buckeyes, man. Spring game is on this weekend. We got the draft at the end of the month. I think we have I just seen the list. We're going to have 4 or 5 of our guys who actually going to the draft. That's over in Pittsburgh. So we'll be looking forward to that. But hey, we're going to break down this spring game this weekend. We're going to enjoy it. You might go out there with the family. I might go out there with the family, get into the shoe, kind of get warmed up for the season.
yeah.
Take a look at our guys and see what they
What
bring.
What we betting on this week? Anything to bet on? We got NBA playoffs coming up
Play-in
here
games,
soon.
NBA play-in games. That'll be kicking off here this week. I think the last NBA games was like last night or tonight or so. So we have NBA play-in games going on. I don't know. I think I like the play-ins. It's kind of, they're a little. It's a little. It give the guys a little bit of a break. The guys that actually made the playoffs, and you get some competitive ball right away. Kind of kick off there. But if you're making bets, check out FanDuel. That's where it's at. If you're watching our show, watch it on FanDuel. Watch this on YouTube. Tune in on Apple. Tune in on Spotify. So we continue to bring you Ohio State Buckeye news. We're going to end the show as always with a nice OH.
All right, yo.
Go Bucks. Talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.